In life, we often find ourselves surrounded by situations, habits, or even people that quietly drain our energy, leaving us feeling heavy and restless without fully understanding why. Many of us carry emotional weights for years, thinking it is normal to feel constantly exhausted or mentally suffocated, when in truth we are holding on to things that no longer belong to us. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes not from the world itself, but from our clinging to it, our attachments, our unwillingness to let go, our fear of change. To master the art of releasing is not to reject life, but to honor it. It is to recognize that peace does not come from holding on, but from allowing things to flow naturally. In this teaching, we will explore powerful lessons inspired by Buddhism that will help you release what drains you, so you can return to a life of balance, lightness, and clarity. 1. Recognize the weight you carry. The very first step in learning how to release what drains you is to become fully aware of what you are holding on to. Without awareness, there can be no release, because you cannot let go of what you have not yet seen clearly or named with honesty. Most people move through life unconsciously, carrying a collection of invisible weights. These weights may be old wounds that were never healed, memories of mistakes that you continue to punish yourself for, disappointments that you replay in your mind as if they are still happening today, grudges that keep your heart tied to people who hurt you long ago, or expectations from family and society that were handed down to you but never truly belonged to you in the first place. Over time, these burdens begin to feel so familiar that you confuse them with your very identity, and because of this, you stop questioning whether they are necessary to carry. When you take time to sit in stillness and observe yourself honestly, you will begin to notice that much of what weighs you down is not serving you at all. It is like walking a long journey with a heavy backpack stuffed full of stones. At first, you may not notice the extra weight because you have grown used to it, but as time passes, it drains your energy, slows your steps, and leaves you exhausted before you reach your destination. The tragedy is that most people never open the backpack to see what is inside. They simply continue carrying it year after year, assuming that life must always feel heavy. Buddhism teaches that much of our suffering arises from clinging to things that no longer serve our growth. This clinging blinds us to the freedom that is always available in the present moment. It is only when you pause and ask yourself honest questions, what am I holding on to that is making me feel drained? What belief, memory, or expectation is weighing me down? That you create the space for transformation. Awareness itself is not a small step. It is the doorway to liberation. The moment you recognize that something in your life is draining you, whether it is a toxic relationship, a habit that weakens you, or an emotion that no longer has a place in your heart, you open the possibility of release. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. You suddenly see the clutter that was keeping you trapped, and once you see it, you cannot ignore it anymore. This is the beginning of freedom. Awareness does not require you to act immediately, but it makes action possible. It shows you that you have a choice. You can continue carrying the unnecessary weight, or you can put it down and walk forward unburdened. 2. Detach without hatred. When people first hear the words let go or detach, they often misunderstand them as meaning rejection, coldness, or even cruelty. They think that detachment requires shutting the door on people with anger or walking away with bitterness in the heart. But in truth, detachment in the Buddhist sense is not about hatred at all. It is about freedom. Hatred, in fact, is still a form of attachment. When you hold hatred towards someone, when you replay their actions in your mind again and again, or when you allow anger to live inside your chest, you are still tied to them. They continue to occupy your thoughts, control your emotions, and drain your energy long after they have left your life. To hate is to keep the wound open, to give away your inner peace to someone who no longer deserves it. This is why Buddhism teaches that true release comes not from cutting people off with hostility, but from loosening the grip that binds you to them. To detach without hatred means to recognize that you do not need to carry resentment in order to walk away. You do not need revenge in order to find closure. You do not even need an apology to heal. What you need is the clarity to understand that your peace is more valuable than your pride. When you carry anger, it is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The only one who is hurt is you. Letting go without hate is the act of putting down that poison and choosing life instead. Think of it this way. A hand that is tightly clenched cannot receive anything new. When you cling to bitterness, your heart remains closed, unable to welcome love, joy, or peace. But when you release the grip of anger and resentment, your heart opens again, ready to experience new beginnings. Detachment is not about rejecting people as human beings, but about accepting that some connections no longer serve your growth, and that holding on to them only keeps you stuck. Walking away without hate requires a deep shift in perspective. Instead of seeing the person who hurt you as your enemy, you begin to see them as a teacher. They taught you the value of boundaries. They revealed your strength. They showed you what you will never again accept. With this understanding, you can let them go without bitterness, because you no longer see the experience as wasted. You see it as part of your growth. You do not need to carry hatred to protect yourself. Wisdom now protects you. This kind of detachment also applies to things beyond relationships. You may need to detach from a dream that didn't unfold the way you imagined, from a career that drained your spirit, or from habits that once comforted you but now hold you back. Releasing these things without hate means you stop seeing them as failures or mistakes. Instead, you see them as chapters that served their purpose and have now come to an end. In this way, detachment becomes an act of love, for yourself, for the lessons, and even for those who played a role in your story. The freedom you feel when you detach without hatred is profound. Suddenly, your mind is no longer weighed down by endless what-ifs and why did they do this to me? Your heart no longer burns with the fire of resentment. Instead, you step into a quiet space within yourself where you can breathe deeply, think clearly, and live peacefully. To detach without hate is to reclaim your power. It is to declare that your inner world belongs to you, not to those who hurt you, not to memories that haunt you, and not to circumstances that are beyond your control. 3. Energy follows attention. One of the most powerful truths about life, often overlooked, is that wherever your attention goes, your energy naturally follows. Your mind is like a spotlight, and whatever you choose to shine that light on will grow stronger in your inner world. If you constantly replay painful conversations in your head, if you dwell on the words of people who criticized you, or if you continually focus on what you have lost, you are pouring your precious energy into the very things that make you feel drained. It is as if you are watering weeds in a garden. The more you give them attention, the more they spread, choking out the flowers that could have bloomed. When you wake up in the morning and immediately turn your thoughts towards stress, regret, or fear, you carry that energy throughout the day. Every decision, every interaction, every moment becomes colored by the negativity you chose to feed. Yet, if you consciously decide to shift your attention toward gratitude, kindness, or even just the simple awareness of being alive, the energy that flows from you changes. Suddenly, your steps feel lighter, your words softer, and your mind more at peace. This is not magic. It is the natural law of attention. What you focus on expands, and what you neglect begins to fade. Buddhism has always emphasized the power of mindfulness for this very reason. When you are mindful, you become aware of where your attention is resting. You notice when your mind begins to wander back to the past or rush forward into the future. You catch yourself before you become trapped in endless cycles of worry or self-pity, and in that moment of awareness, you are free to choose again. You can redirect your focus towards something that uplifts you instead of something that drains you. Think of your attention as the most valuable currency you possess. Every moment, you are spending it somewhere. You may spend it on resentment, on gossip, on complaints, or on envy. And if you do, you will find yourself exhausted because none of those things return anything of value to you. But if you spend it on compassion, on learning, on silence, on presence, you will find that your energy multiplies. It is like investing in fertile soil instead of barren land. This truth also explains why it is so difficult to heal when we constantly feed our pain with thought. Imagine someone wrongs you, and instead of allowing the wound to close, you pick at it every day by replaying the memory. The wound will never heal, not because the event still exists, but because your attention keeps giving it life. Energy follows attention. If you want to release what drains you, you must stop pouring your attention into it. Like a fire, it cannot burn without fuel. Directing your attention is not about denial or pretending problems do not exist. It is about understanding that you always have a choice. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always control how long you stare at it, how much power you give it, and how much of your energy you are willing to sacrifice for it. When you catch yourself locked onto something that weakens your spirit, ask yourself, do I want this to grow? If the answer is no, gently shift your focus. Turn your mind towards something nourishing, no matter how small. It could be the sound of your breath, the warmth of sunlight, or a simple act of kindness. Slowly, as your attention moves, your energy will follow, and you will feel lighter. This lesson is not just about thoughts, it also applies to the people and environments you surround yourself with. If you constantly give your attention to negative people, to endless noise, or to distractions that consume your time, your energy will be drained before you realize it. But if you choose to give your attention to people who uplift you, to moments of stillness, and to practices that strengthen your spirit, your energy will flow into growth rather than depletion. Attention is choice, and choice is power. Buddhism reminds us that the mind is both the source of suffering and the path to liberation. By mastering your attention, you are mastering your life. Release begins the moment you decide not to feed what drains you anymore. Just as a plant left unwatered withers and dies, the habits, memories, and attachments that steal your peace will eventually lose their hold if you stop nourishing them with your focus. In this way, awareness and attention become the tools of release. They are the bridge between suffering and freedom. 4. Create boundaries without guilt. One of the greatest drains on human energy does not come from sudden crises or dramatic events, but from the slow, silent erosion that happens when you live without boundaries. A life without boundaries is a life where anyone can take your time, your energy, your attention, and even your peace without your permission. It is a life where you say yes when your heart is screaming no, simply because you are afraid of disappointing someone or being judged as selfish. And yet, the truth is this: every time you sacrifice your well-being to please others, you are not practicing kindness, you are abandoning yourself. Boundaries are not walls of cruelty or barriers of coldness. They are lines of clarity, drawn from wisdom, that protect your inner world. Just as a home has doors and windows to decide who can enter and who cannot, your heart and mind need boundaries to decide what influences are allowed to shape your life. Without them, you are left vulnerable to the endless demands of others, to relationships that take more than they give, and to environments that drain you instead of nourishing you. Many people carry guilt when they begin to set boundaries. They feel that saying no makes them selfish or unkind, especially if they have been taught since childhood that their worth is measured by how much they do for others. But Buddhism teaches balance. Compassion is not about pouring yourself out until you are empty. True compassion includes yourself. You cannot bring peace to others if you are living in turmoil. You cannot give kindness to the world if you have none left within. To set a boundary is not to reject someone. It is to honor the truth that you cannot serve from an exhausted spirit. Imagine a tree that gives shade and fruit. If the tree is constantly stripped of its branches, if its roots are never watered, it will wither and die. It can no longer offer shade to the weary traveler or fruit to the hungry child. The same is true for you. Without boundaries, you give until there is nothing left, and when you are drained, no one benefits. Boundaries are the way you water your own roots so that you can continue to give shade and fruit to the world around you. There will always be people who do not understand or respect your boundaries. Some may push against them, testing how firm you really are. Others may accuse you of being distant or uncaring. But here is the key. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your energy, to maintain your peace, and to live in alignment with your values. Buddhism teaches us that clinging to the approval of others is another form of suffering. If you set a boundary but still carry guilt for it, you are still chained to the need for validation. True release is learning to honor your boundaries without apology. Creating boundaries also requires you to know yourself deeply. You must be clear about what drains you, what nourishes you, and what your limits truly are. This clarity comes from mindfulness, observing your feelings, noticing when you feel heavy after spending time in certain places, or when your energy is uplifted by particular practices or people. Boundaries are not rigid rules imposed on others. They are reflections of your own self-awareness. They evolve as you grow, shifting as you learn what your soul truly needs to thrive. The beauty of boundaries is that they do not push people away unnecessarily. Instead, they create healthier relationships. When you set a boundary with kindness, you teach others how to treat you with respect. You create space for relationships to be built on mutual understanding rather than silent resentment. And just as importantly, you create space for yourself to rest, to recharge, and to return to life with energy that is authentic and whole. To release what drains you is often not about cutting people off completely, but about restructuring how you allow them to affect you. Boundaries are that structure. They are the invisible shields that keep your light from being dimmed while still allowing you to shine for others. And when you release the guilt of having boundaries, you discover a new kind of peace. The peace of living a life that is not constantly pulled in directions that weaken you. Buddhism teaches the middle way, the path of balance. Boundaries are a modern reflection of that wisdom. They are the balance between giving and preserving, between compassion for others and compassion for yourself. When you master the art of setting boundaries without guilt, you no longer feel the need to explain or justify why you choose peace over chaos. You simply live in alignment, and in that alignment, your energy becomes steady, your presence becomes stronger, and your spirit becomes free. 5. Accept that some things cannot be fixed. One of the greatest and most painful drains on human energy comes from the endless effort to fix what is no longer meant to be repaired. We spend years of our lives trying to hold together relationships that no longer bring us peace, forcing ourselves into careers that drain our souls, clinging to habits that once gave comfort but now only create harm, or obsessing over past choices that can never be undone. This constant struggle is exhausting because it comes from a place of resistance, a refusal to accept the impermanence of life. The Buddha taught that all things arise, all things change, and all things eventually pass away. Nothing in life is permanent, not even the pain you feel now, and yet most suffering is born when we resist this simple truth. Many people live under the illusion that if they just try harder, if they sacrifice more, if they never give up, they can somehow bend reality to match their expectations. They believe that by fixing everything, they can erase suffering. But in truth, the opposite often happens. The harder you cling, the more drained you feel, because you are fighting against the natural flow of life. Imagine holding onto a rope that is being pulled away from you. The tighter you grip, the deeper the rope burns into your hands. Eventually, you are left not with security, but with pain. Accepting that some things cannot be fixed is the act of loosening your grip, letting the rope go, and allowing your hands to finally heal. This lesson is especially important in relationships. How often do we stay connected to people long after the bond has broken, convinced that if we just love harder or try longer, they will change? Yet in most cases, what you are truly trying to fix is not the person but the story you told yourself about them, the idea that they were meant to stay forever. The truth is, some people come into our lives as blessings, and some come as lessons. They are not all meant to walk with us to the end. When you try to force permanence in a relationship that was always meant to be temporary, you trade your peace for an illusion. And illusions are some of the greatest drains of all. The same truth applies to the past. How many nights are wasted thinking, if only I had made a different choice, if only I had said something else, if only I had known better. This endless replay of the past is an attempt to fix what cannot be fixed. The past is already written, carved into stone by time. No amount of worry, regret, or self-punishment can undo it. And yet, by refusing to accept this, people keep themselves trapped in invisible prisons, carrying chains of guilt and regret that make every step in the present heavier. Acceptance does not mean you approve of everything that happened. It means you release the illusion that you can change it. From that release comes peace, and from peace comes the strength to move forward. Even in smaller aspects of daily life, this truth remains. There are problems that cannot be solved, questions that cannot be answered, and mysteries that will never be explained. To demand certainty in a world that is constantly changing is to demand the impossible. Buddhism teaches us the wisdom of impermanence and the art of surrendering to what is. When you accept that not everything can be fixed, you stop wasting energy trying to force outcomes that were never meant to be yours. Instead, you begin to flow with life, allowing change to guide you rather than resisting it. Acceptance is not the same as giving up. It is not laziness or apathy. It is strength. It takes courage to say, this situation cannot be repaired, and that is okay. I will take the lesson. I will keep the wisdom, but I will no longer sacrifice my peace, trying to glue together what is already broken. In this acceptance, you create space for new beginnings. A closed door does not mean the end. It means that your energy is now free to walk through another door that was waiting all along. Think about water flowing down a mountain. If a rock blocks its path, the water does not try endlessly to break the rock apart. It simply flows around it, continuing its journey to the river below. That is the power of acceptance. Life will place rocks in your way, obstacles, endings, losses. But if you spend your life trying to break every rock, you will never move forward. If you learn to flow, to accept that not everything is yours to fix, you will discover peace, even in the face of change. So ask yourself, what in your life are you still trying to fix that no longer needs fixing? Is it a broken relationship, a past regret, or a dream that no longer belongs to you? How much energy have you given to something that is not meant to be healed, but meant to be released? To master this lesson is to reclaim your power. It is to stop giving your precious energy to what drains you and to begin redirecting it toward growth, healing, and presence. When you accept that some things cannot be fixed, you do not lose, you gain. You gain back your peace, your clarity, and your strength. You step out of the exhausting cycle of resistance and into the gentle flow of life as it is. And in that flow, you discover freedom, the freedom to live without forcing, without clinging, and without draining your soul on battles that were never meant to be fought. 6. Transform pain into wisdom. Every human being carries pain, whether it comes from heartbreak, betrayal, failure, loss, or even the subtle wounds of daily disappointments. Pain is unavoidable in life because to live is to encounter change, uncertainty, and impermanence. Yet while pain itself is inevitable, suffering is often optional. What determines whether pain becomes a lifelong prison or a source of strength is how you choose to respond to it. If you cling to pain, replaying it in your mind and allowing it to define you, it becomes a wound that never closes. But if you meet pain with awareness, if you allow it to teach you, then it transforms into wisdom, a deep well of insight that strengthens your spirit instead of draining it. Buddhism teaches that pain is like fire. When uncontrolled, it can burn you, consume you, and leave you in ashes. But when you understand its nature and learn to work with it, fire becomes a source of warmth, light, and even transformation. Pain works in the same way. You cannot always prevent it, but you can decide whether it destroys you or becomes the very force that purifies and reshapes you. Every painful experience carries a hidden lesson, but that lesson reveals itself only when you stop resisting the pain and start observing it. Take betrayal, for example. When someone you trusted breaks your heart, you can either live forever with bitterness, keeping your soul chained to anger, or you can use the experience to learn discernment. You begin to see that trust should be given with awareness, that love must be balanced with wisdom, and that not everyone who smiles at you deserves access to your deepest self. Betrayal then becomes a teacher, not because it was fair, but because you chose to grow from it instead of shrinking under it. The same is true for failure. When your efforts collapse, when your dreams fall apart, or when you try your best and still fall short, you can interpret that as proof that you are not enough. Many people stay stuck in this view, allowing failure to drain them of confidence and joy. But Buddhism invites you to see failure as part of the path. Every fall teaches resilience. Every wrong step shows you where not to walk again. Every rejection redirects you towards something better. In this way, failure ceases to be a drain and becomes an investment in wisdom. Loss, too, carries lessons. Losing a loved one reminds you of impermanence and teaches you to cherish the moments you still have with those around you. Losing a job or a position reminds you that your identity is not tied to titles, but to your inner strength. Losing opportunities shows you that life is always shifting, that doors close so others can open. Painful though it may be, loss invites you to see life more clearly, to value what truly matters, and to stop wasting energy on what is temporary. Transforming pain into wisdom does not mean denying or suppressing your feelings. It does not mean pretending you are unaffected. It means feeling the pain fully, acknowledging its presence, and then asking, "What is this here to teach me?" Instead of saying, "Why me?" you begin to ask, "How can I grow through this?" This shift in perspective turns every difficulty into an opportunity for awakening. The wound may leave a scar, but that scar becomes a reminder of your strength, not your weakness. When you resist pain, you multiply your suffering. It is like carrying a heavy stone on your back and refusing to set it down. But when you face it, learn from it, and release it, the weight transforms into fuel that pushes you forward. This is the essence of alchemy, the art of turning suffering into wisdom, just as base metals are transformed into gold. Your pain becomes your teacher, your guide, and even your strength. To live without transforming pain is to remain trapped in cycles of bitterness and resentment. But when you learn to transform it, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and begin to see yourself as a student of life. Every heartbreak teaches compassion, every failure teaches humility, every loss teaches appreciation, and every struggle teaches resilience. In this way, nothing is wasted. Even the hardest seasons of your life become stepping stones to greater understanding. Buddhism reminds us that the lotus flower, one of its most powerful symbols, grows in muddy water. Without the mud, the lotus cannot bloom. In the same way, without pain, wisdom cannot grow. Your most beautiful qualities, patience, compassion, strength, awareness, are often born from the muddiest seasons of your life. Instead of resenting the mud, honor it for what it gave you. So ask yourself, What pain in your life are you still clinging to as a wound? What would happen if you began to see it as a teacher instead? The moment you shift your perspective, you reclaim your power. Pain no longer drains you because it is no longer just pain, it has become wisdom. And wisdom, unlike pain, does not weigh you down. Wisdom uplifts, enlightens, and guides you toward freedom. 7. Anchor yourself in the present. The greatest form of release, and perhaps the most difficult to master, is the release of time itself. The ability to let go of the heavy chains of the past and the constant pull of the future so you can fully anchor yourself in the present. For most people, life is not lived here and now. It is lived in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's fears. Minds are filled with thoughts like, if only I had done things differently, or what will happen if I fail tomorrow? These endless loops of remembering and anticipating consume your attention and drain your energy more than any physical task ever could. The past cannot be changed, no matter how tightly you cling to it. You can relive a mistake 1,000 times in your head, but it will not erase it. You can replay conversations, imagine new outcomes, or carry guilt for years. Yet all of it is like trying to hold on to smoke. The past has already dissolved. What drains you is not the past itself, but your attachment to it, the unwillingness to accept that what is done is done. Similarly, the future is not here yet. You may worry about what could go wrong, fear rejection, or imagine 1,000 disasters. But all of these thoughts are illusions. They live only in your mind, stealing peace from the moment you actually inhabit. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is the only reality. The past is a memory, the future is an imagination, but the present is alive. It is here that your breath flows, here that your body exists, here that life is unfolding. When you learn to anchor yourself in the present, you begin to see that peace has always been available. It was simply hidden beneath layers of mental noise. To be present is to finally come home to yourself, to stop wandering endlessly through the corridors of time, and to sit in the stillness of now. Anchoring yourself in the present does not mean ignoring the lessons of the past or neglecting to plan for the future. It means using the past as a teacher, not a prison, and seeing the future as a possibility, not a burden. You can remember without clinging. You can prepare without fearing. The present moment is not about escaping responsibility. It is about meeting life fully as it is, without being drained by what no longer exists or what has not yet arrived. Think of how children live. A child can laugh with pure joy one moment and cry with complete honesty the next, and then return to laughter again just as easily. They are not weighed down by yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's worries. They live fully in each moment, experiencing life as it unfolds. This is why their energy feels so light, their spirits so free. Adults, on the other hand, carry invisible backpacks filled with years of regret and years of worry, so even simple joys feel heavy. To return to the present is to set down that weight and rediscover the simplicity of being. Mindfulness is the key to this anchoring. By paying attention to your breath, to the sensations in your body, to the sounds and sights around you, you slowly train your mind to stay here instead of wandering endlessly. Every time your mind drifts into the past or leaps into the future, gently guide it back with compassion, not with force. Over time, this practice becomes natural, and you begin to notice that many of the things that used to drain you lose their power. The regret of yesterday loosens its grip, the anxiety of tomorrow fades, and what remains is the clarity and calm of now. Anchoring yourself in the present also transforms your relationships. When you are with someone and your mind is elsewhere, thinking about what they did in the past or worrying about how they might behave in the future, you are not truly present with them. But when you release those thoughts and simply give them your full attention, you create a space of connection that is healing for both of you. In the same way, when you are working, studying, or even walking outside, Presence allows you to experience life fully instead of letting it pass by unnoticed. The truth is, everything you seek, peace, joy, clarity, strength, exists in the present. It is not hidden in some future achievement or trapped in some perfect memory. It is here, waiting for you to notice it. But you cannot experience it if your mind is always elsewhere. Anchoring yourself in the present is not just a spiritual practice. It is a form of self-care, a way of protecting your energy from being drained by time itself. Ask yourself, how much of your energy is wasted reliving old stories or fearing new ones? How many moments of beauty have you missed because you were too caught up in what was or what might be? The more you practice living in the present, the more you realize that this moment is enough. It is not lacking, it is not incomplete. It is the doorway to freedom. To anchor yourself in the present is to finally stop fighting with time. It is to stop clinging to what you cannot change and stop fearing what you cannot control. It is to discover peace, not as a distant dream, but as a living reality. And in this anchoring, you release one of the greatest drains of all, the endless mental struggle with past and future. What remains is presence, and in presence, you are free. 8. Embrace simplicity as the path to renewal. One of the most overlooked truths about what drains us is not only found in people or painful memories, but also in the endless complexity we create in our own lives. We live in a world that glorifies busyness, accumulation, and constant stimulation. We are told that success is measured by how much we own, how much we achieve, and how much we can fit into our already crowded days. Yet, this constant chasing leaves us tired, restless, and disconnected from the essence of living. The human spirit does not thrive in endless noise. It thrives in clarity and simplicity. To release what drains you often means to release excess possessions, excess commitments, excess desires, and return to a life that is rooted in what truly matters. Simplicity does not mean poverty, nor does it mean deprivation. It means choosing deliberately. It means recognizing that not everything deserves your energy, your time, or your attention. Many of us keep things in our homes, in our minds, and in our hearts that weigh us down without us realizing it. A cluttered room often mirrors a cluttered mind, and a cluttered mind cannot find peace. When you embrace simplicity, you begin to see that less can indeed be more. Owning fewer things allows you to appreciate what you have. Saying no to unnecessary obligations creates space for what genuinely nourishes you. Quieting your desires helps you find contentment in what is already present. Buddhism teaches the middle way, a life of balance between indulgence and denial. Simplicity is the embodiment of that path. It allows you to step away from the extremes of craving and avoidance, finding peace in the gentle rhythm of what is enough. Imagine drinking a glass of water when you are thirsty. In that moment, the water is pure joy, and you are fully present with it. But if you are surrounded by countless drinks, chasing different flavors and textures, you may lose sight of the simple miracle that a single sip of water can provide. Simplicity awakens gratitude. It helps you see the beauty of ordinary things and teaches you that joy is not hidden in more, it is revealed in less. There is also a deep connection between simplicity and freedom. The more you accumulate, the more you must protect, maintain, and worry about. The more responsibilities you take on without reflection, the less time and space you have to breathe. This is how complexity drains us. It traps us in a cycle of doing without being, of acquiring without enjoying, of chasing without resting. When you release unnecessary complexity, you reclaim your freedom. You reclaim the quiet mornings where you can hear your own thoughts. You reclaim the evenings where you can sit with loved ones without distraction. You reclaim the ability to be present with yourself without needing constant noise to fill the silence. Simplicity also nurtures your relationships. When you stop trying to impress others with possessions, achievements, or appearances, you make space for genuine connection. People begin to see you for who you are, not for what you display. Love becomes purer, conversations become deeper, and connections become more authentic. Complexity builds walls of pretense, but simplicity tears them down, allowing hearts to meet without masks. Anchoring your life in simplicity does not happen overnight. It begins with small choices. You might clear a space in your home that feels heavy with clutter. You might remove one obligation from your schedule that no longer brings joy. You might practice gratitude for something small instead of endlessly wishing for something more. Over time, these small acts accumulate, and you find yourself feeling lighter, freer, and more energized. Simplicity is not the absence of richness, it is the discovery of richness in what is already here. To embrace simplicity is to release the constant drain of striving for more. It is to realize that peace does not live at the end of endless accumulation, but in the quiet appreciation of the present. In simplicity, your soul finds rest. Your energy is no longer scattered across countless desires and distractions. It is centered, calm, and powerful, and in that stillness, you discover renewal, the chance to live a life not of constant exhaustion but of steady joy. Life is not only about what we hold on to, it is even more about what we are willing to release. Every burden you carry, every resentment you cling to, every memory you replay, and every fear you feed takes a piece of your energy. Over time, these small drains pile up until you find yourself exhausted without knowing why. The Buddha taught that suffering comes not from the world itself, but from our attachments to it. We cling to things that have already ended, to people who have already left, to expectations that were never ours to begin with, and in doing so, we bleed energy into illusions. The art of release is the art of returning to freedom. We began with awareness, learning to recognize the invisible weight you carry, the memories, grudges, and expectations that feel normal but are slowly suffocating your spirit. Awareness alone is a powerful act of liberation because you cannot let go of what you do not see. From there, we explored the practice of detaching without hatred, understanding that walking away does not require bitterness. Hatred is still a form of attachment, and true release comes when you can let go with compassion, reclaiming your peace without carrying resentment. We then learned that energy follows attention, and that whatever you focus on grows stronger within you. If you continue to give life to what drains you, you will remain weak, but if you direct your attention to what nourishes you, your energy will expand. This is why mindfulness is such a powerful practice. It trains your mind to feed the flowers instead of the weeds. But even as you cultivate presence, you must also create boundaries. Without boundaries, others will pull on your time, your emotions, and your strength until nothing is left for yourself. Boundaries are not walls of cruelty. They are acts of self-respect that allow you to protect your peace without guilt. We also faced one of the hardest truths. Some things cannot be fixed. Not every relationship is meant to last. Not every wound can be undone. And not every dream is meant to be realized. To accept impermanence is to stop wasting energy forcing what was never meant to stay. And yet, even in what cannot be fixed, there is wisdom. Every heartbreak, every failure, every loss carries within it a lesson that can either destroy you or shape you. By choosing to transform pain into wisdom, you take what was meant to drain you and turn it into strength. You become the alchemist of your own life, turning suffering into clarity, scars into reminders of resilience, and wounds into gateways of growth. Finally, we arrived at the deepest release of all, the release of time. By anchoring yourself in the present, you free yourself from the prison of the past and the chains of the future. Here, in this moment, peace already exists. Here, you are not drained by what no longer is or what has not yet arrived. Here, you are alive, free, and whole. So remember this: to release what drains you is not to lose, it is to gain. It is to gain back your energy, your clarity, your joy, and your ability to live authentically. It is not an act of weakness, it is an act of strength, for it takes far more courage to let go than to cling. The lighter your soul becomes, the higher it can rise. Each time you release what no longer serves you, you step closer to your true self, the self that is calm, grounded, and unshaken by the storms of life. Do not wait for tomorrow or for some perfect moment in the future to begin. Release today. Release the grudges, the regrets, the fears, the attachments, the endless stories that drain your spirit. Walk lighter, breathe deeper, and live freer. In doing so, you will not only master the art of releasing what drains you, you will master the art of living